Hello. Well, it is a very noisy day here. Oh, we've got sirens going on all over. We've had a bit of an accident down the road from me. Done the best to keep it from filtering through where I record. But we'll see. If you do hear anything like that, that's what's going on. They've got some service vehicles, of course, police cars, ambulances, fire trucks, you name it. Apparently, a couple of the cars were on fire. Um, but anyway, we're going to carry through. Hello to those of you in the chat. Hello, Autistic Shield. Thank you for being here. Robski, Jingo. Um, I'm glad to see you. Today we're going to continue talking a bit about Scientology, more about the appeal that they have put through. Scientology has several cases going at the time. I mean, that is not unusual. When I say cases, I mean legal cases, and most of them are only civil. Okay, the majority of the cases against Scientology directly currently are civil cases. Okay. In regards to criminal cases, we only have a criminal case against Danny Masterson, which you may be aware we're already covering. We covered that last week. We went into some of the changes there that were going on with that trial and some things that they were trying to delay. Um, there's been a bit more on that, and I can add that like towards the end. They do all kind of go together, especially for this particular update that I'm doing, because this one involves them and their appeal, a special appeal about going to the Supreme Court now because of the actual motion to deny what actually Scientology wants to do is to say that even though the members of the church they've left Scientology, that they are still bound to arbitration based on an agreement they signed as being part of Scientology. And I believe we've discussed this on prior episodes, but I'll go over it again. They do have a document that when you sign, that everything that happens between you and anybody else or anything amongst the organization will all be handled within the organization. It forbids you practically from going outside of the organization for any assistance whatsoever, regardless of the situation. You must bring it to Scientology first through their process and go up the chain. Now, the problem with that is that in the one case in particular, and there are two cases involved here. But first, let's address the Masterson case because that is the one I made you familiar with first. Okay, in the Masterson case situation, the victims, the three victims, are claiming that when they left the church, okay, that the reason that they qualify for extended time under statute of limitations to file charges against Danny Masterson for the alleged crimes of sexual abuse and rape was because the church prevented them from going to the police, that the church prevented them from doing anything outside, that the church actually obstructed them, held them back in some way, intimidated them. They tried to follow the church's way of doing it. It didn't work. They then left the church. Okay, we're going to file all this and then suffered their civil suit against Scientology is for the harassment and the obstruction and the interference in them being able to get due process. Okay. Now, Scientology, in their defense, submitted the article, so-called, let's just call it a contract, okay, because it's going to fall somewhat under contract law from what I can see, okay. And I'm not a lawyer, as you all know, and I'm not even a paralegal. I don't work in a law office or anything like that. I have a fascination with the law. I always have. I've been reading legal briefs for years and years and years and years, and studying things on my own here in this in the United States legal proceedings, and also a few years ago I got interested in English law proceedings and followed many cases over there also. So I have a fascination. I've got experience with reading them, following the cases, but it's not legal what I'm saying, okay? I don't have a legal precedence to show you. I do research. I do talk to other lawyers, check it out. But I'm always going to tell you, I'm not a lawyer, okay? Uh, what I'm looking at is actually a disagreement that would possibly fall under just the standards of contracts in general, although we're going to bring a religious institute into it because Scientology has a classification in the United States as a religious institution and falls under non-profitability through the taxation code as a religious entity. They're saying it's a religion. Okay. The contract is what they sign basically when you join Scientology that makes arbitration within the church system mandatory. No ifs, ands, or buts. There is no other way. Okay. This document was submitted by the Scientology lawyers themselves into evidence in the civil case that the accusers of Danny Masterson filed against Scientology for this. Okay, they submitted it as evidence to prove that they have no case because they were under arbitration with the church, and that's just how it's done. And they have no legal standing to do anything else. That they were just following procedure. They know how this is done. Blah 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 blah. Well, when those same accusers used that document that just got submitted into evidence as part of another motion to say, see, this is how they harassed us. They said we can't do this. They were making us break the law. We had a crime committed against us, and they would not let us pursue outside and pursue justice in our own defense. Okay, they actually did nothing about it. They're part of the perpetration. They're part of the problem. Blah blah blah. Scientology didn't like that they were using it now against them. They tried to have the document removed from evidence, even though they're the ones that submitted it. The court said, no, 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 you submitted it. They get to use it. No harm, no foul. Sorry, it's in there. This is the point of contention now. Whether or not you can legally hold someone, under your church rule that they can't do certain things that actually break the law, that actually goes against law. Okay. Does your practicing of your religion allow you to perpetrate the breaking of the law against your church members? Okay. And in how you do it. Now, there's a big bone of contention here. Okay. Now, this all happened in California courts in the beginning with Masterson. Okay. And they took it to the regular appeals court in California to overturn that motion, to try to say, no, 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 they can't use that against us. That's our church doctrine. And here you go. Like, our point is that when they left the church, we have arbitration in there that they are still fall under the contract, whether they left the church, whether they didn't left the church. And you have no right to tell us how to punish or what we do with our ex-church members because it's religious belief. California court said, no. The California Supreme Court said, no, 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 no. That's not. No, that's, nope, not going to happen. Okay. Prior to them actually saying that, another case was filed in April of 2022 by Baxter in Paris, Gawain Baxter, Laura Baxter, and Vishka Paris filed another lawsuit against David Miscavige directly and all the Scientology units, stating that they had been the victims of child trafficking and unfair labor practices from a very young age, that they were put into labor, services without being paid a fair wage, not able to take themselves. They didn't know any better. They were children. Their parents had put them in at a very young age, some of them at 2 months, some of them at 7 years, still too young to make their own decisions. And they signed these lifelong contracts of servitude with the Church of Scientology. And they are suing them based on the illegal practice of child labor. Now, this is unique in a way because, first of all, here in the United States, we all know we have child labor laws. Okay, we know that there are big fines and penalties, and businesses are not allowed to put young people to work for at all without special circumstances coming into play. And if they do, that there are certain rules and regulations about how much they should earn, what is considered fair, and what would be considered abusive. Now, we have a set of standards here in the United States that they must follow, a whole bunch of laws that they must follow. Okay, but not so Scientology. They're going to pull the religion card again and say they don't have to follow those rules. Okay. One of the interesting points is that in Scientology, these children are not considered children. They're considered adults of their own mind, that their free will is, their capacity is there, so they don't have a classification for children, which is why they operate the way that they do. And again, Scientology is trying to pull the card legally. And this is where I'm offensive. I have no problem with people practicing their religion. Okay. But when you try to get the legal laws of the land to go against everything they believe in just to support your religion, I call foul. I say, no, there's no exception to that. The freedom to practice your religion does not include the freedom to break the laws of the land. No, it does not. It does not. It's not written that way. Okay. I would need someone to prove it to me that it is, because it's not. It's not how we operate. Otherwise, we would have churches that did all kinds of really messed up stuff. I mean, everybody would be making a religion to get away with, like, there could be the religion. All right, I'm going to go a little far here, but we could make a religion of the law, the religion of let's rob a bank a week, and let's become millionaires at the banks, stealing everybody else's money, breaking the law on the regular, and even worse things, I know I make light, and, that's not possible to happen, but to me, it just seems that ridiculous. That's how I'm looking at it. That is how ridiculous this is. They're coming forward with as if their religious belief in their doctrine, their church, is more important than anywhere else that they practice. Now, we know that Scientology is a worldwide organization. They are in many, many countries. Okay. I don't think they have the right to break the laws of the land in every country that they go into just because they're a religion and they practice their own. Now, there are certain things we cannot infringe upon, but there are others. They're not allowed to commit murder or fraud or steal or break the laws of the land. Okay. And here's the thing: obstructions of justice for keeping somebody from filing a police report against somebody when they were committing a crime, in the act of a crime. Okay. Sexual assault and sex without consent are crimes punishable in the United States. Okay. You can be convicted in a criminal court of these things. That's the first part. Okay. The second part is child labor. Child labor is a crime here. There has penalties. There's laws against this. There's restrictions against it. Abuse of a minor, all of that. Okay. Again, we're going into criminal and violation territory here. We're going into violations of laws. Okay. That should not be attained. But what is scary about this, and the reason that I'm reporting on it again, is that they didn't stop in California when California said, sorry, no. You put it in there, we're going to use it. No, you can't use that. They have decided to go forward to the Supreme Court. Okay. They've gone to the Supreme Court of the United States now. And they want to say that they have the freedom to practice their religion this way. That we're not allowed to tell them how to treat members who leave their church or members who are in their church. Okay. Now, in a way, I don't want to tell them how to treat their members. Okay. I don't think anybody does. I don't think that is what this is about. This is about you having the ability to break the law and not be held accountable the way every other individual in the United States is. Okay. And that is the problem. But, that is where I see the major issue here. And I think you'll all agree, Hey, Mandy. The book of Mandy. Mandy, you're going to start a religion? Yeah, okay. Hello, Arto. Let me just look through the chat. Barry on, thank you. Randy, hello. Barry on, welcome. You're taking notes. Can you pass them on to me? Thank you very much. T. King, welcome. Always grateful, always good to see you. Mrs. Cassandra, thank you for being here. Bliss, Chris, it's nice to see you also. Anyone that I missed, I apologize. I'm not going too far back in the chat. I don't want to get too far off subject here because it's a lot. It's a lot. Okay. Let me just go over some more of the finer little things here. Okay. First of all, that petition was filed at the end of July, to go to the Supreme Court, and they're also still trying to appeal in the lower courts too. But I don't know how well it is. When they looked at it in May, they did say that it was filed appropriately, but they're going to deny it based on the lower court's decision was sound, and there was no real basis for appeal. There is nothing written. But here's the thing: we're going to talk precedent here, because just because there isn't a prior ruling or a prior law written about something doesn't mean that precedent can't be set. And here is where I'm going to do a little bit of fear mongering. Here is where what I've seen coming out of the Supreme Court lately, as far as opinion, has scared me a lot. Okay, I have seen some things that just didn't make sense to me. Now, they are legal professionals, and I know that they're looking at things, and I don't really want to sit here with my personal opinion and say, they don't know what they're doing. Because I'm not going to go that far. I have great respect for the law. These are judges. I do want to say I smell a little bit of an agenda here. And I'm just hoping to hell they see the evil here that could be done if they actually allow religions to break the law. And I think it needs to be strong to say, although we understand the pickle that you're in, because there were legal issues here, laws that were being violated, we can't really let that contract stand as it can't be voided, that it can't be touched, even though it belongs to a religious entity. Okay, because in contract law, you're not allowed to write a contract that makes another person it break the law. It becomes null and void if anything like that happens. Okay, that's my understanding of contract law 101. That's how it was explained to me. You cannot write a contract that forces another person to break the laws of the land. Okay. And I'm not meaning the social laws of the land or the status quo laws of the land. I'm talking to the legal binding laws of the land. Okay. Those laws, the ones that get you thrown in jail, the ones that make you pay penalty and consequence on a regular basis, those kind of laws, not the things that the majority believes or this or that, or things against other religions. No, not like that. We're talking criminal offenses here. Okay, we're talking criminal offenses, and that's what it's really blowing my mind that they have the audacity to say that they have the actual right to do that because they're a religious organization. Oh, that just blows me away. Okay. So let me just tell you the church's argument. It is from an article, so it's not going to be all legal language for you. I thought it would be better to understand. The church is arguing that the ruling that they got to smack down that this arbitration clause could not be used as a defense. The church is arguing that the ruling violates the church's right under the First Amendment and amounts to religious discrimination. The opinion, they say, quote unquote, weaponizes the First Amendment against religious freedom, holding that the First Amendment requires limitations applicable only to religious and not to secular arbitration agreements, the church argues. But that's not true. No arbitration agreements are allowed that break the law. Okay? They're not saying that you don't have to go through the courts, but they didn't commit, they weren't allowed to actually file a criminal complaint when something violated them. And that's a little different. So it gets a little sketchy here because, of course, they should be allowed to say that those members had to come to them first. Okay. But they were stopped from filing criminal charges. That is the problem here, that they feel that they were violated and they weren't allowed to pursue justice. That's the issue that the court is having here. It's a little bit dicey there. Do you see? Like, you should be able to say, listen, if you're going to complain about anybody within our organizations, we want to know about it first. We want to handle it the best that we can internally and give you process through here. Use our process first. But what you can't do is use that process to stymie the person, intimidate them, harass them into not filing charges. And that is what the women are claiming happened. Okay. That they brought it to the church as they were supposed to. The church didn't do anything about it. And then the church continued to intimidate them and harass them when they went outside of the church to file criminal charges. That they did extraordinary events to them. They harassed them. They did financial damage to them. They did a lot of things. Okay. And this is what they're saying is, and the church is trying to say, well, we're allowed to because that's what we told them would happen. You see how it gets a little dicey? You're trying not to actually tell a religion how to practice or what they can tell their constituents to do, the members of the church, how they should act. But at the same time, you have to have the letter of the law. You can't violate the letter of the law. Every individual is also a member of the United States, protected by the laws of the United States here for these two cases, are they not? So there's duality. Okay, they need to be protected by the laws of the land of the United States government, okay, of our legal process, as well as be a member of the church. Okay, there has to be some balance there. Okay, the church has to succeed a little bit that they, we're not really going to ask them to violate the law, but they're not. They're going balls to the wall saying, none of your damn business, keep your nose out of it. We don't care about your law. This is what we do. And you're violating my First Amendment to practice my religion my way by saying that I have to honor it. And that's what became offensive to me. Okay. The plaintiffs had filed suit in August of 2019. And when they say the plaintiffs, they're talking about the Masterson accusers. And they had alleged that the church had engaged in a campaign of harassment and intimidation after they reported the allegations against Masterson, a prominent church member, to the Los Angeles Police Department. The women alleged that the agents of the church followed them, hacked their emails illegally and their security systems, killed their pets, ran them off the road, poisoned trees in their yard, and threatened to kill them. Of course, the church has denied all of those allegations. And also, I would state that Masterson is also saying not guilty about the other allegations he is set to face in his criminal trial. Okay. The church sought to force the women to adhere to the agreements they signed when they joined the church, which mandated that all claims against the church in perpetuity, and here's the clause, whether you're with us or not, in perpetuity, doesn't matter where you are, you left, whatever, forever and ever and ever, forever and ever and ever, would have to be settled by a church-run arbitration process, finding that the women have a First Amendment right to leave the faith. Okay. All right. A lower court agreed that they could run that arbitration process. But in January, the Court of Appeal overturned that decision, finding that the women had a First Amendment right to leave the faith. Okay, so Scientology says, I have a First Amendment right to practice my faith any damn well I want. And the court is saying the women have the right to leave that faith under the same amendment. Well, there you go. What's going to happen here? Is the individual's right not to be persecuted by the church after they want to leave? Not to be told that they have to forever break the law and be held bound to an arbitration? Is a billion-year contract actually illegal? And are they only getting away with it because it's a religion? These are the things that I'm thinking about. Okay. These are the things I want to see change. And I'm wondering what's going to happen. What is going to happen here? Okay. And they go on to say, we hold that once petitioners had terminated this is the court actually, we hold that once the petitioners had terminated their affiliation with the church, they were not bound to its dispute resolution procedures to resolve the claims at issue here, which are based on alleged torturous conduct occurring after their separation from the church and do not implicate resolution of ecclesiastical issues. Okay, the appellate court did rule on that. In effect, they said, Scientology suggests that one of the prices of joining its religion or obtaining a single religious service is eternal submission to a religious forum, a sub silentio waiver of petitioners' constitutional right to extricate themselves from the faith. The Constitution forbids a price that high. The Constitution itself forbids a price that high. Okay. This is why. Now, that's the clause right there in the original um, decision by the California court that I'm hoping resonates through the Supreme Court of the United States. When it gets to SCOTUS, let me, the Constitution literally declares that that can't happen. They're saying so in the appellate court. They are saying so that the Constitution says you cannot make someone pay forever for something, especially once they decide to leave your organization. There should be an out. You cannot make them pay a price that high. Perpetuity for that. Now, I know in some business contracts and some deals and stuff that that's scary that they're going to do that. But what they're trying to do is like we're binding in an illegal motion here too, that they cannot do anything, that everything has to go through back through the church when they are no longer a member of the church. That doesn't seem to be fair. And you know what? Both parties think it's not fair. Scientology themselves think it's not fair, that they say that you can't really regulate me. These people signed these contracts willingly. Who are you to say that I can't say that they have to be bound to anything to do with me, that they have to handle it through me as the entity, Scientology, and they feel very strongly about it. Okay. And yet the members leaving the church feel that once I'm out, no, it doesn't matter. Like, that's why I want out. You don't get perpetuity for me. Like, I'm done. And actually these things that you want to deal with in-house are actually law breaking. I don't want to deal with them in-house. You are guilty of breaking the law here, and I don't think I should have to find my justice with the lawbreaker, with the ones doing the injustice to me. Do you see the catch-22? They actually want you to use this arbitration system inside the church when these members who left the church feel that it is the church that is doing the injustice. So how could the arbitration system absolutely work within the unit? It can't. When they are accusing the unit, the church itself, it's like a catch-22. It's impossible. It is actually impossible. No one could be that unbiased. Okay. Well, here comes Scientology, and the church itself has asked the court to reconsider the decision that was made in the California Supreme Court. Actually, the appellate court, and then asked the Supreme Court of California to review the case, and they were denied both times to review it. The California Supreme Court, and this is how it got to SCOTUS, looked at it both times and said no. The appellate court, which is below, from regular court to appellate and then to Supreme, the appellate court said, no, there's great law here. The Supreme Court looked down at it of California, said, no, the appellate court did the right thing. What they're saying here, I'm going to say the exact same thing. I'm not even going to bother. Denied. We are not putting it through. Okay. In its petition for a writ of certiorari, I forget what that says, the church argued that the Court of Appeal ruling poses a threat to religious arbitration or other contracts involving any church. They are worried here that they're not going to be able to continue this process. Okay, the notion that the First Amendment empowers the state, meaning, the law, to regulate the covenant between a church and its congregation could not be more wrong or dangerous. The church argued religious organizations need this court to remove any doubt that their contracts, including their agreements to arbitrate disputes before a religious forum, cannot be voided by a party's professed change of mind. Why? Why? I know what they're asking, but no. Why would they have to be held to arbitration that broke the law about a criminal offense? You see, that's the thing here. They keep forgetting to mention that it was a criminal stuff that they were talking about here. We're not talking about, I don't want to pay $100 a year, I only want to pay $50 a year. Or in the church of we must only wear skirts, I want to wear pants. We're not talking about stuff like that. Okay, we're talking about criminal offenses here. Breaking the law, and they want to turn it into something else. Okay, that's what they're trying to do with this First Amendment stuff. They're turning it into something else, and I hope that SCOTUS can actually look at this and do the right thing and hold up the First Amendment to that the individuals actually have that right. Okay. An organization should not have the right to oppress a single individual that way, a religious organization, to take all of their rights away because of an impertuity contract. You know, Marcy Hamilton, who represented the accusers at the appellate court, noted in an email that the appellate ruling was unpublished yet, meaning it does not create law for other cases. In other words, we're not trying to change it for all religious organizations. We're just saying in this case, with the criminal offenses that were occurred and the way you treated these people, no, that was against the law, and no, we're going to go with them because no, you can't do that. They're not saying that religious contracts can't exist. They're not getting into that whole thing. Scientology is trying to force them to. Okay. The church is seeking to overturn that decision from the Supreme Court of California and saying that it's unpublished and therefore not precedential. This is a procedural posture that the court would never take. They have nothing to review, and that is exactly what the court is going to keep. Just keep going on that actual stance for this. They do not want it to get as far, and so this is why they didn't want to take it any farther. Okay. So, and based on that, we go to the second case. First of all, let me look at the comments and make sure that I am sorry. Let me make sure if you have any questions. Perpetuity. Yes, thank you very much, Icarus. Perpetuity. I get it. Thank you, and I appreciate you, and welcome. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see if there are any questions. Okay. Here's one. Why should churches have this separate system for anything at all? I understand that, Randy. It does kind of boggle my mind. I don't think that the exception should include law breaking. I do think that they do have the right to practice their religion in the comfort of their, what we would call a little micro ecosystem. True. But not to the extent of breaking the laws of the land. You know what I mean? We don't allow them to marry too young. We don't allow them to abuse children regularly. They do become, the individuals are subject individually to the laws of the land. Yes, regardless of what religion you belong to. And that's the point that I think needs to be made really clear here by Scotus. Okay. Sean, hello and welcome. This is effed up. Yes. Yes, it is. This is why I'm doing it again this week, because it got worse. If this is done, then people can do whatever they want and be able to say we are doing and use in the use of the church to clear them. Exactly. You see how this is what scares me. And I'll admit I have a bit of fear here because I've seen some weird rulings, not that I'm going to get into that now. You've all heard about that on other streams, and we will address it some more. We still have to go over education. We still have to go over the whole the gun rulings that happened, rules against gun control. We will address them. I'm not afraid to talk about the political issues. That's not what I mean by I don't want to discuss it right now. What I mean is we don't have enough time. We've got a small barrel here and a lot of fish to go after, and I don't have room to put all that in right now. We have an hour today. Okay, well, we will be addressing that, and I agree with you very, very much there, Sean. It is crazy. Religious privilege is what that is. Yes, you're right. What they're trying to claim is privilege over and above everybody else. But the privilege, you don't get the privilege to break the law. That doesn't exist that I know of here in the United States. They do try. I'll tell you that rich people try to buy their way out of stuff, and conniving criminals try to get away with things. But the law is still the law. It still applies to every individual the same. One of the beautiful things that I love about it. Okay, the law doesn't care technically. I know what you're going to say as far as visually, what we see out there. But technically, the law does not care about anything else. It doesn't care if you're a man or a woman. It doesn't care what your race is. It doesn't care how much money you make. When you break the law, there is consequence. The law applies to you the same as everyone, or as it should. Now, are there problems? Yes. Don't come at me and say, well, this person gets treated differently than that. But I get it. I get that there are problems in the system. But the basic premise is the law is for all. Every individual has to follow the law the same way. That's the premise. That's all I'm saying. That is how it's supposed to work. There is not an actual exemption for religions to break law. Hey, Hawk Skull, it's so nice to see you. I hope you're well. Bonsoir. Arto, freedom of religion is also freedom from religion. The government and churches need to respect this. Exactly. They left the church. They need to have the right to do that, because basically, if SCOTUS rules in favor of what Scientology is actually claiming, they're claiming you never get out. They might as well be the mafia. Like they're saying, you signed a billion-year contract and you are always under our control. That's it. You never get to leave. Now, is that fair? If you were a 2-month-old when you got brought into the religion, or a 7-year-old, because that's the second case that is going there, and they are waiting with bated breath as to how this will go down with the Supreme Court, because they also had issues with this. They are saying that there was child labor laws violated, and they weren't able to complain about it or do anything about it or file any complaint when they became an adult, even though they were still under the same practices, because of the arbitration system that exists in Scientology. And that when they left the church to be able to do so, okay, and to complain about it, that they were actually harassed the same as the other the accusers of Masterson. They were harassed, ridiculed, things happened to them, emails are hacked, financial services, they are stalked, they have investigators, their employers are being contacted, all kinds of horrific things. They are being terrorized. That's the word I'm going to use. Does this religion, or does this religious organization have the right to terrorize ex-members because of an arbitration clause in a contract? Do they? Do they have the right to break the law? I don't think so. I don't think so. Yeah, I really don't. Okay. You see what else we have here before we move on? I thank you all for being here. Randy says that SCOTUS doesn't view the First Amendment like other SCOTUS of the past. This court focuses on the free exercise, but ignores the establishment portion. Indeed. This is what I've been seeing in the rulings coming out. It appears that you've been paying attention to all the rulings coming out over the last year or so, and I agree with you, especially the ones in the last few months. Yeah, it's of concern, isn't it? It is. The law is followed and enforced by people who are flawed. This is true. And so, we are all human, okay? And that's why maybe that First Amendment, the ability for them to leave that institution, should be allowed. Especially since some of the members are in there based on a decision they didn't make. Okay. Based on something they didn't have control over. They were there with their families. Their families were in Scientology, and they just, because they were part of the family, Yep. No get out of jail free cards just because you're a Scientologist. No. I am hoping that that's not what happens. I really am. Okay, so I'm gonna go on to the next case here. Let me just show you the players here that we have. All right. Oh, I have one more. I can't pull it up because this StreamYards is not behaving, but Arto says in the chat that he wishes the SCOTUS rules against Scientology. Then the ruling can be used against Christianity also. Many churches that are involved in criminal enterprise. Yes, and I do think that currently there should be a way to actually, if they're actually breaking the law, to actually put them up on charges. But you're right. If it goes the other way, it's going to be very bad. Or so I do hope along the way that you say that they do vote against science, they do rule against Scientology in their opinion, that the First Amendment does not allow you to break the law. Okay, that is not what it's there for. And Randy also states the First Amendment. Oh no, that's not. The First Amendment also insinuates freedom of association. Yes, that you get to leave it. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Like, why can they not like leave? Exactly, Rodent. Randy had also said that an originalist reading of the Constitution is missing the whole point of it. Yes, I subscribe to that notion loudly. Actually, I do. I think it's being twisted, very much twisted. Um, mhm. True. Very, very true. Being twisted. Well, here we go. The other case that we are following in regards to this, and you'll note, one of the things that I want you to pay attention in this particular case, which is Gawain Baxter, Laura Baxter, and Valeska Paris, all ex-Scientologists, all brought into Scientology by their parents at a very young age. Very young age. Okay. Everybody was under the age of 8, I believe. Some were 7, some were a couple of months old, maybe a couple of years old. Okay, they were all brought in by their parents, but they all are still forced to sign those billion-year contracts, which include the arbitration contract process that we've been discussing. Okay. Um, what I'd like you to note in this ruling is, do you see, they are going after David Miscavige first and foremost as the leader, okay, and the Church of International Religious Technology Center, all the separate names for Scientology, which the way that Scientology, another unique and interesting way of developing, is that there's such a tangled web of how they separate all the little tiny organizations within Scientology to like who belongs to what and how and whatever, that you can't just sue the whole, you can't just say Davis Miscavige and Scientology, because all the contracts and things that they have to sign and the way that people have to do things are all under these other separate type of organizations, like the Church of Scientology Flag Service Organization, the Church of Scientology Flagship Service Organization. Okay. These are, like Sea Org and things like that, and way that they had to participate within the organization. They're all like separate. There's a separate name for all of it. The web is gigantic. So that when you go to process and serve on them, you really actually have to know the contracts and everything. You have to have all the paperwork of all the stuff that they made you sign and all of the levels that you went through, where you worked, under what it was. It's all quite convoluted, but that's how these get really long when it comes to the defendants. The list can be quite cumbersome. Okay, but basically these are the organizations that the plaintiffs actually worked under. Okay, and I'll just tell you some of the things that they're going to go over. First and foremost is that this was just filed recently. It was filed on August 2nd. Okay, just last week, because they're not able. This has been going on since April. They did their first filing of charges against Scientology in April. And they have not been able to serve David Miscavige. He's been hiding. He's been all over the place. He's been ducking and weaving and going from resident to resident and building to building. They can't serve him. Okay. And so they're filing in this amended complaint. This is an amended complaint to the original complaint. This August 2nd one is going to bring forward information about what's going on forward, why they have to pursue further with this case, and that the fact that they're unable to serve David Miscavige because he's concealing his whereabouts. Okay. All right. In this I'm not going to read this whole thing. As if you're looking, you see at the top that it says 120 pages. I'm just going to give you the gist down here of this. Okay. All right. They are actually, and I'm just going to tell you what the whole case was about and what trafficking laws that they're saying were violated under U.S. code. Okay. These plaintiffs, the three that we mentioned, are bringing the action against the defendants, Scientology and Miscavige et al., pursuant to Trafficking Victims Protection Reauthorization Act, TVPRA, 18 U.S. Code 1581 to 1597. As children, all three plaintiffs grew up in and were raised by Scientology. And it was not a peaceful or loving environment. Instead, it was a world filled with abuse, violence, intimidation, and fear. Defendants considered plaintiffs to be possessions, void of any rights, whose sole purpose was to serve defendants. Plaintiffs were placed on a ship they could not leave and routinely punished by being humiliated, interrogated, and imprisoned for the sole purpose of ensuring that plaintiffs would continue to perform back-breaking free labor for the defendants. That's the key word there. Free. Free. They broke the law. All the intimidation stuff, that kind of breaks the law too. Okay. Not allowing them to leave is kind of imprisonment. You see where they're going here? They're saying, even as children, this is how horrible they were. Okay. All right. Miscavige is concealing his whereabouts to evade service process. It goes on through all of these, this paragraph here to say all the times that they tried to get a hold of him and where he's going, and he's weaving in and out of these buildings. You know, he has refused delivery on 4 requests to waive service. In other words, there's a way to waive service. You can actually say, hey, I'm traveling. Can you leave it with my lawyer? Hey, I'm traveling. Can you leave it at home and so can sign for it? Or, hey, just email it to me and I will accept it that way with a receipt. But no, Miscavige is using the law of proof of service and not waiving it. There's a way to waive it, but he refuses to. He's actually going to make them keep trying to go after him. Nice tactic. I think he's waiting to see what SCOTUS does to see if this goes away. Okay. It goes on to say who Miscavige is, what all these organizations are in the buildings and everything. And I have actually linked this below. For those of you that are actually interested, and some of you are, in reading these 120-page briefs, I do link them. And if I don't ever link one that you are interested in, contact me. I have them. If I've been talking about it and showing it, it's free information, and I'm glad to put it back to you and get a copy to you so that you can have the joy of this legal mumbo jumbo the same as I. Okay. No, they go on with all of these pages, quite 20 or 30 of them actually, to state why they're suing the separate organizations and why they're suing Miscavige directly, because he actually is responsible for this. Okay. There was one thing here about membership that I wanted to say. You know, so this point here that they're making is that under these contracts and under the organization umbrella, so-called public members of Scientology typically live in their own homes, earn livings working for businesses not owned by Scientology, and pay annual membership fees to IAS and purchase materials and services such as auditing at a local Scientology center. In contrast, Sea Org, where these three were, members, are required to sign a billion-year service contract, become increasingly indebted to defendants, live in residences on Scientology's basis, and work for low and even no pay as staff members in the various defending entities and other Scientology-controlled entities and organizations. What they are saying here is they can't say this, routine member of the church bullshit, because they treat people separately here. You're either hierarchy or you're not, but they are actually violating law in the way that they treat the Sea Org members, the ones that are making sign that contract to work for nothing while they're there in perpetuity, and to use the arbitration system. They all have to use the arbitration system to file any complaints of whether they're paid or they're not paid, or whether they're abused or not attributes. Okay. They also are claiming that auditing is a coercive control technique that has come up in many trials with Scientology before. It has been in many articles. There's been many complaints about people leaving the church. Okay. That you are always in the wrong. Anybody above you is never wrong. You are always the one in the wrong. Another thing that they did is that the children of Sea Org members were separated immediately from their parents when they are infants. Children under 6 years or old are cared for and disciplined and groomed for the Cadet Org by Sea Org members who hold no qualifications to raise children. These Sea Org members discipline and indoctrinate the children into Scientology. When their children are as young as 6 years old, parents relinquish custody to Cadet Org, which prepares them for a lifetime of servitude under defendant's control. And here's what they're saying. When I turned 6 years old, I went into work service. They put me to work. When I was 6 years old, they put me to work. This is where they're filing the lawsuit on, right there. Okay. Once their children are in the Cadet Org, parents are stripped of all their parental rights. They're not able to intervene in any way, and they have no responsibility. They don't have to feed them, clothe them, teach them manners, responsible for education, nothing. They have no ties to the children whatsoever now. That's it. Sign them over. Okay. This does sound a little bit like indentured servitude, like slavery, a little bit. It's like they're treating these children like chattel. This is disgusting, actually. This actually bothers me a lot. Okay. They don't get to make any decisions, of course. They don't even get to say how their children should be treated in any way. Once they're in the Cadet Org, the children are then given work assignments, and the parents have no say on how they're educated, what work assignments they're giving, how they're disciplined, or even when they can see their children. It's all up to the organization. They don't have any relationships with their parents at this age. This goes on to produce, what we're going to say by common sense is, of course, they're going to have no healthy relationships. They're not going to be able to grow. They are just being indoctrinated into the religion. They are very young. But the point is, I don't want to get into whether that's right or wrong in a religious belief. I'm not a fan of Scientology. Like many of you, I believe, I think it is definitely way too much, and it's a cult. It's not a religion. It's a cult. And I base that word cult on the damage that is caused, on the damage that we've seen coming out of Scientology, the ex-members, the court cases that we have seen, the horrific stories. I would say the damage that it causes would prevent me from viewing it as a true religion belief. Also that, and I snarkily add, the fact that it was written by L. Ron Hubbard, who was a scientific author right before that, who wrote scientific fantasy novels, and then wrote a religion and got everybody to go with it. He wrote it himself. Okay. The things that qualify as a religion, I don't really want to get into that. I think that there needs to be some looking into. Well, here in the United States, this is a religion because it qualifies under a religion because of its tax exemption status with the IRS code. And we know most refer to it as such because they have weighed in and said it was. There you go. I don't agree. Sounds a bit like 1984. Yes, it does. Yes, it does, Icarus. And if you read those first books by Hubbard, yes, it does. Child labor and slavery, I agree with you. There was crime and punishment in all types of things going on here. But anyway, this goes on. I'm only on 50, and this goes on and on about all of this stuff. And then it starts to talk about later on about GPS trackers on their homes, things like that. Okay. There are consequences for a family member of a defector of Scientology. All of these people wanted to leave once they became old enough to know. If a defector is declared a suppressive person, the remaining family may be deemed potential trouble sources, which can result in round-the-clock surveillance, traumatic ethics handlings, and security checks until defendants are satisfied that these persons have fully disavowed and disengaged from the defector. If you leave Scientology, everyone who knows you must disavow you. You are a suppressive person, and everybody that ever had it, your wife, your child. I mean, if you were married and you leave and your wife stays, you're not allowed to practice just a difference of opinion here. No, she must disavow you as a member of the church, not have anything to do with you. You're a suppressive person. You are out, out, out. They can't, your name's verboten. Everybody, your children, your parents, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, all of the people you worked with, everybody you knew, your friends, everybody. No one who is still inside the organization is allowed to have anything to do with you. Period. Harsh. Very harsh. Now, that's not unusual. There are many religious organizations that do that. Well, there are. All right. I think I want to get to that. Wait a minute. I'm going to stop sharing for 1 second, because that is going to hurt your eyes when I do that. Okay. Well, what I want to actually talk about was back in my table of things. Okay. All right. So they talk about the organization. They go through the whole thing. If you go to read it, they're going to go into all the psychological theory of how this oppression has affected them, why they weren't in control to make these decisions, why that is a form of abuse. Okay. They actually go into great detail about the abusive formal process for leaving the Sea Org, about how that is put. Okay. Then they talk about the three individuals and what their actual stories are. Gawain Baxter, Laura Baxter, Gawain rather Baxter, Laura Baxter, and Valeska Paris. Okay. Gawain Baxter and Laura Baxter actually marry each other. Oh, three things. Okay. All right. And what actually these plaintiffs rather, are asking of the defendants comes down to what their prayer for relief is. Okay. Number one, they also are accusing them of all kinds of, let me just give you the counts that they're filing on them. There are 6 counts that they're coming up against here. And if I'll just give you a brief on those, because that is what the actual original filing and the additional filing is all about. So on count 1, they are accusing Scientology of forced labor and attempted forced labor in violation of the Trafficking Victims Protection Reauthorization Act, which we said before. They're saying that they forced them into labor illegally. And then on count 2, there is conspiracy to obtain forced labor in violation of the same act, the TVPRA. Okay, so they're getting on conspiracy 2. On count 3, trafficking and attempted trafficking with respect to forced labor in violation with the TVPRA. More incidents of it. Count 4, again, same thing for all the defendants. All of the defendants are claiming this, okay? Also, peonage and attempted peonage in violation of the TVRA for all the defendants. And hold on, I'm going to get you the definition of the legal term there, which I thought I already had pulled up, and I did not. Peonage, also called debt slavery, okay, or debt servitude, is a system where an employer compels a worker to pay off a debt with work. Okay, so they're saying that the contract that they signed put them in this arrangement with Scientology forever to pay off this debt, and that's illegal. Okay, that is count 5. Okay, count 6 is conspiracy to commit the peonage. Okay, in violation of TVPR. It's all in violation of the traffic and labor laws. Okay, they're demanding a jury trial. What they want them to do, they want the court to find the defendants liable on all counts of the complaint applicable to them, and that judgment be entered in favor of the plaintiffs against, and severely on all the accounts. And they want to award the plaintiffs compensatory damages in the amount to be ascertained by the trial. They didn't even list how much. They want to leave it up to the court. They want punitive damages in amounts to be ascertained by the trial. Okay, and they want that Scientology have to pay all the court fees that they had to do this. They want them to pay everything. Okay, and they want them to award any other such relief that the court deems proper under any law or constitute that's there. Okay, and on that, okay, that is what they're definitely. I think they've got a fairly decent case there. But remember, when we're talking here, we're not talking about a criminal case. These are civil lawsuits. All they can get is compensatory or punitive damages. All they can get is money. They can't get them convicted of the crimes that they're saying that they committed or they're at, against them. Okay, they can. These are things that happened well on. These members are now in their 30s and 40s. Okay, so they're not children anymore. They're not even just out of Scientology. Okay, what is all this talk about cabbage? Yes, Icarus, if they pay everything off after 1 billion years, they're free to go and they don't have to do anything anymore. Ain't that something? Yeah, you're funny. I know. It's humorous and not. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's horrifying, actually. I'd be like, hey there, Turtle Moves, and Paula and Icarus. Thank you for being here. I didn't see you guys come in, but thanks. I'm getting ready. Good night, Arto. It's late for you there. Thank you for being here as long as you were. I'm going to actually, it's just over the hour. I like to keep these to an hour, but I will stay for a minute if you have any questions on either of those two civil lawsuits. The civil ones, not the one about Masterson criminals case, but the civil lawsuit by the Masterson accusers about being delayed and not being able to file charges, and about this particular lawsuits from Baxter in Paris, who are filing basically on, violation of the child labor laws, and trafficking, human trafficking for slavery. It is definitely child labor and slavery from all this talk that I see, that's definitely, Sandy says, and hello, Sandy. Sandy says, guess they would want them to think they were born into servitude of Scientology, which really sucks. Exactly, because they were practically like they're definitely born into it on this. Yeah, they're definitely born into it as far as that. That's what really gets to me, is that this is slavery. We abolished slavery in the United States. Religion doesn't allow you to create slaves here. It violates the law. Okay, this is what was really offensive to me about Scientology, using this premise of the First Amendment to try to get away with this, basing that because it's a religion, you don't have any say in how we do anything. But I think that the government does when it breaks the law. When it comes to child labor, slavery, okay, or the not obstruction of justice in committing, in not allowing people to file a complaint when a crime has been committed. I mean, we have whistleblower laws that protect people. You're supposed to, if you know that your employer is breaking the law, you're supposed to be able to come forward with nothing happened to you to report a crime. Okay, that's how it is. Okay, why do they think that just because it's a religion, they don't get to do that? I don't understand why they think that because it's religion. It's like that religious word. It's like a blanket to do whatever, and it's not, okay? I'm not saying you can't practice your religion. I'm saying you can't practice your religion in violation of the law of the land, the legal law of the land. Okay, without exceptions. Now, you have gone to court and won exceptions on a lot of things. Vaccinations for one. Okay, we could go right there. Vaccinations in the school systems in America here. Many of the states require that you have so many of the vaccinations to be able to be in a group of children. We're talking measles, mumps, things like that. Proof of vaccination. However, when someone comes forward with a religious belief that vaccination is against their religion, they have actually legally put that in there as an exemption for you to actually honor that in some way, and then they can decide whether you have to stay home and practice or be taught at home, which makes sense to me. I mean, otherwise we're just messing up that pool we're trying to create with these communicable diseases that we are trying to annihilate and get rid of, like polio and measles and mumps and rubella and all of that we vaccinate against. We're trying to get rid of them. Doesn't make any sense to let somebody with exemption come right into the pool again and do all of that. But hey, I digress. Oh, let them practice, how they will state by state with that, how they actually manage that. Well, there are exceptions, but in this case, there is no exception written already that says, nope, you don't. We can violate the law. You're allowed to violate the law. You're allowed to not let people file criminal charges. You're allowed to hold them in slavery and child labor in perpetuity for 1 billion years or whatever that contract says, because that doesn't make any sense. You don't have to file contract law. None of that exists. There is no loophole that says you don't have to actually abide by contract law or the laws of the land. Not yet. Anyway, and we'll see what SCOTUS can do. The only thing they can do is to rule on it. They don't get to write the law or anything or change the law in any way. They only get to look at the law and apply it, which gives me some comfort. They can make recommendations. Well, we'll see. All right. And what's my favorite type of cabbage? Sauteed with onions. Well, till it's almost like brown around the edges. Usually green cabbage, although I love red cabbages too. I like them pickled. I don't have a favorite cabbage. I like all cabbages, including Brussels sprouts, roasted in the oven with olive oil and salt and pepper. Like all little versions of cabbages. Like cabbage is cool with me. I have Irish background. What can I tell you? Cabbage, I like it. All right. And Hungarian too, like cabbage rolls. Stuffed. Rice and meats. Yeah. And so you throw me off my game here, Robski. We're talking about food. I'm going to have to go now. And I'm going to have to go eat. Anakai, nice to see you. No worries, love. No worries at all. You know what? Replay is a wonderful thing. And if you have any questions about anything I covered in regards to this, with the Scientology and going through to the Supreme Court in their ruling here, you can contact me, love. Okay? Because on that, I think I'm going to say goodnight, everybody. You have a great night. We have another episode of Am I the Asshole on Wednesday. We're going to have Charlie Dave here at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, just an hour later than the start time today. It'll be 10 o'clock for the UK. It will be quite early in the morning in Australia. It'll be like 7 a.m. or maybe even earlier. But on that, no, all of those cabbage rolls. I didn't. All of them. Robski, don't start. Like all of them. They are all so good. They really are. Good answer. All cabbage is good. Okay. Thanks for coming, Roden. Thanks everybody else who is here, my mods, all of you in the chats participating. Have a great day. Hopefully I'll see you on Wednesday. But enjoy. And like I said, my DMs are open, especially if you have any other cases that you're interested in. I am currently looking at a few of them. I'm going to be putting up a poll on the community tab about what cases you're most interested in. So absolutely, please, go ahead, and there's things you're interested in, let me know. And I try to weigh in some stuff there, but don't forget to vote on the community tab and add, if I don't have something up there you're interested in, go ahead and add it in the comments. All right. And again, do the YouTube things. And here it is. I don't like these stuff, but I'm going to do it anyway. Hit that damn like button. Don't be lazy. Even if you're on your way out, just hit that thing. Engagement does help with getting these videos that I think are important on issues like SCOTUS in Scientology, what they're doing. Not so much my voice that is important on it, but the issue. Getting that conversation out there. I really believe in that. So give me a little help. Comment on the videos, subscribe, tell other people about the channel, share, all of that. And on that, I will see you all. Thank you again, mods. Thank you, everybody. I will see you all again soon. Again, for legal updates next Monday, but again for Am I the Asshole will be on Wednesday. And on that, have a great night.